Did Will, the Story of People podcast returns with my good pal Darryl Hurs. How are you doing, buddy? It's been a while. You've been busy. You're traveling. I'm traveling. It's nuts. And here we've come together like a year and a half later, or whenever it was since the last time we chatted. Welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thank you. And yeah, you're traveling. I've definitely been traveling. Um, hey, man, post-COVID life is almost busier than ever before.
Well, everyone definitely got back out there post COVID. All the bands went bonkers and played and grabbed all the money and played all the shows, and then they had to go back and make records. So I think it's pretty cool that it's a thriving industry again, and people are buying tickets, and bands are starting to make money on tour again, and streams are up, and bands seem to be making some dough. I don't know. It seems to be back to a healthy space with a much needed break in there that some would argue was unnecessary, but I think our industry definitely needed a little bit of a reset and break, and we're back to it now. And the last time we spoke, you were building out a bunch of stuff, and it kind of broke. Everything kind of took a break, and so it's a good time to catch up again. Our pal Cam brought us together, and it's the new season of this show. So why not go back to music and talk all the things? So how you doing?
Good, man. Good. And busier than ever. Busier ever. And sometimes we got to thank COVID almost for our business that where we're at right now. And we'll probably talk a little bit about that.
Depends where this is airing. Certain parts of the country will have us not thank COVID at all. Other
Absolutely.
parts of the world will also not have us thank COVID at all. However, personally, we all needed a break, uh, and we're back. So I definitely think that there was a reset done there. I hate using that word too because there was people hashtagging that word around a little bit too, but
Yeah.
resetting things. But I will tell you this: uh, the industry is back. People are doing it, and there's so much to talk about on that side of it because the the mental health thing is way more under the radar now, and people are definitely, or sorry, under the microscope now, and people are definitely paying attention to it more. Bands are doing things a little bit differently and thriving. It's basically COVID's like the Seattle grunge scene.
Yeah. Well, although it's still coming back, I know a lot of people that have had it within the last
Sure.
month. Um, but I'm referring to the business I'm in right now
Yeah.
and what we're doing um, is because of COVID, actually. And it's exciting. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk.
Absolutely, we will, because one of the things that we do on this show is talk about how people did things, how they did things, what will they do next, all that fun stuff on Did Will, the Story of People podcast. So, without further ado, Darryl, why don't you introduce and reintroduce yourself to the public? And what do you do, man?
Really good question. And it's funny. I talk to a lot of people in the music industry, and I think a lot of people have started using the word stuff. But uh, so a bit of background. As everybody, started off as a musician, and at some point transitioned over to more the business side, producing shows, managing artists, tour managing, lots of things. And about 20 plus, just 20 over 20 years ago, I launched a festival called the Indie Week, which grew substantially. And our last live Indie Week was 2019 before COVID. And it was 240 artists from 30 countries in 24 venues over 4 nights. A lot of work. Um, so taking a step back, what do I do? Out of all the things, I've kind of realized I try to help indie artists and people in the music industry to advance their careers through education, connection, performances, and so on. So we we do a festival now. We've got an online community, which is like social media for the music industry. We host webinars, which is education, and we host B2B networking, which is connection. So that's what I do in a nutshell.
I mean, it's a busy space. I mean, and bands need as much, help as possible in that space, and that's never changed. That
Never
part has never, ever, ever changed. But post COVID, people have to kind of have done things a little bit differently than they're used to doing. I mean, just in general, record sales aren't the same. Uh, Getting people at the shows fundamentally should be the same, but it is, it can be just a tweet, and next thing you know, 5,000 people show up, like the artist I was just out with. Um, there's so many different factors to it. So coming out of Indie Week and working in that kind of space that you were in before, what are you seeing, personally, that these artists are searching for? Are they searching for something different than they were searching before? Are they searching for the same things, or is it kind of a hybrid of both of them?
I think a lot of it is the same, but I feel our industry has broken over the years. But this goes back probably more like 10, 15, maybe even 20 years, where record labels stopped developing artists. And somewhere along the line, it's turned into, there used to be, here's the blueprint on what to do, to now there's no blueprint. And every artist is trying to figure out, how do I, and fill in the blank. How do I tour? How do I promote? How do I collect monies and royalties, and so on? So we're really trying to help that question as much as we can. And post COVID, part of where I'm saying thanks to COVID is, during COVID, we went online to do webinars, and it became a normal thing. And so that's new to us. We would never have done webinars before. We do
Right.
webinars every week. I have 3 days a week I'm doing sessions. Um, and to host those, we've launched our own platform. So it's like we have our own Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Zoom for the music industry. It's called DIT, stands for Do It Together. And here's the funny part, I did used to work for CD Baby, and everyone's talking DIY. And if you take a step back, I'm like, really? You're going to go to the music industry and do it yourself and figure out all of this stuff by yourself? That's really hard. So why don't we do it together and help each other? So that's the community that we're building. And we've decided we can't do Indie Week like we did before in Toronto. The city's changed, the
Mm.
climate's changed, the prices have changed, traffic has changed. Uh, so we've launched a new festival called Venue by Venue in London, Ontario. So smaller market, where we can be more hands-on and build community as well. So that's the change of COVID, and we wouldn't have done any of this. So I got to say thanks to COVID, because
And
uh,
hey, listen, going
you
to
know,
London is great because, there's so much going on in Toronto all the time. And
yes,
then people got to go to South by Southwest, and then they go, all to all these different conferences, Polestar, all around the place. But I think it's great that you're, people got to go to London. They can take the train, they can take Via out there, they can do whatever they got to do. It gets them out of the city. Feels like you're going away because it's 3 hours away, but it's still there. You're gonna have a passionate city that's going to embrace it. I would believe it. Is that something you're going to do at that city all the time, or do you intend on taking it all over the country?
well, a big factor in us making the decision. A good friend of mine, Corey Crossman, runs the London Music Office, and we were actually hanging out a fair bit prior to COVID. And through his work, London got the UNESCO City of Music designation, and it's the only one in Canada. So I know they've got an active music office. I know that tourism is in support of that. So they're building a music city, and I want to be a part of that.
Hmm.
And so we approached and said, how about we build an international festival in your city, and let's work together. And I got to say, thank you to the London Music Office, because they've supported us immensely, and they're putting London on the map. There's a lot of activity happening in the music space in London because of the work they're doing.
Which is great because so many venues are closing around the country. I mean, I've been in Vancouver almost 20 years now. When I was here, there was at least 10 venues that you could go and historic ones too, Richards on Richards, for example, that you
Yeah.
could go to and see these really awesome shows that are all gone. They're all condos. Um, and
Well,
the ones that do remain are in rather shady parts of town, which is where all good rock and roll lives. But people aren't going as much anymore, and I'm not seeing the scene as thriving as it was, potentially more in an underground scenario. So that's fine. But again, that's if London is embracing that, amazing and good for them, because the country needs more venues for people to go see shows. So it's awesome.
exactly what you said happened in Toronto. And it's funny, yesterday I came across an old Now magazine where it's got the show listings. Like, remember when there was printed show
Yeah, I
listings,
loved it.
you know?
He was amazing.
Yeah, and I'm looking. Bamboo was on Queen Street. Rivoli still there. Horseshoe's still there. 360 not there. Bamboo
Mm,
not there. And like all of our when we launched Indie Week, all of our venues were on Queen Street, roughly between where Rivoli and 360 were, like
yeah,
Spadina to Bathurst, and we had like tons of venues, and like there's only three left, right, or four left, right, out of like 13. So we had to over the years change how we did our festival, how the city was changing. And I got to say, it got to be more and more difficult, and people were already complaining like, man, I'm spending 150 bucks a night in Uber to get from this venue to
yeah.
the other one, and because of traffic I'm missing all the bands. So in a week I spent 450 $500 in Ubers, and I've seen two bands. So
I know it's really
yeah.
it's really something, and I just remember being a part of that as a indie band, with Chris Machete and those guys when
Yeah.
we had Mr. Machete, and later on with Chuck Caliber. But it was amazing to get when you got accepted to something like that, and oh, we're gonna play Canadian Music Week, right? And we're gonna go in, and then you're just in it. And there was a point there in like 94, 95, 96, even up to 98, that it was like everything. It was like gotta be at Canadian Music Week, and everyone's gonna see you. And that's I spent a lot of time with Cam, Carpenter there, like all these great guys that carved out my early parts of my career, happened at those festivals in like 94, 95, 96, in that space. And so that is a fear of mine, that the young generation that's coming through isn't going to have that opportunity to meet the publicists, meet like the people that shape these careers young, that uh were so integral to my development. And so I'm always a proponent and will always fly the flag of any organization that is doing that, because this doesn't just help the bands, it helps the future of our industry, and the people that are in it and want a career in it and want to thrive in it. And those all happen at those festivals.
Oh man, I gotta say, so much has come to light post COVID. Like, I'm seeing stuff like, because artists are and everybody's more active. Where I just was in Germany and Walk Off the Earth was playing, and I remember like we had them before they were known, right? Um, and I'm seeing posts of like the OBGMs just played South by in Australia. Well, we had them when they were called the Oh Baby Give Me Mores. Uh, so we have a lot of stories where we've had these artists years ago when they're starting out, and part of almost, I guess, what do we call it, rite of passage of an indie artist is slugging it out a bit. But like you said, getting accepted the first time, what does that mean? And then being able to say, oh, we played this in our bio, and making connections, songwriting, doing tour swaps or gig swaps. But not only artists, we're seeing people who've crossed over from being an artist to now they're ahead of a record label or a producer. So it's not just artists, it's also industry. And we purposely named our new festival Venue by Venue to put focus on venues. That's
Yeah.
part of the whole point.
It's a great idea, and it's a lost art. And I think that I'm not going to be the old guy from the porch or by any means when it comes to it, but that that acceptance of getting into a festival and, your slot is 4 p.m. on Friday afternoon. And you're like, "Oh," 4 p.m. on Friday afternoon, and you're playing with Sum 41 and, Not by Choice and, like, whatever, all these bands that were, like, around, and you just look at who you're sharing the stage with at that time, or you go, "Oh, they're playing over here," or "They're playing over here," and, it's just such a thing. So good on you, because the future of the industry needs it. I definitely see a lack of it in my travels, and I think, and I do meet young minds everywhere that are just itching to learn. So these kind of things are amazing for them, and I encourage anybody listening to this, or anybody on DIT that's watching this or listening to this on the various podcast networks, if you do have a an interest in the music industry or networking, really dive into what Daryl and his team are doing here, because they are offering something that's different than I had access to when I was coming through. And these are all some of the first people you're going to meet on your journey, and they're with you. I'm 20 years in, and I still deal with people from, or I'm 20 years in Vancouver. I'm almost 30 years into the industry and still work with people from
Oh
there.
yeah.
So,
Well, I remember when Billy Talent was called Pez, for instance.
absolutely.
Right? Um, and
So,
if I could mention one thing
yeah,
about our focus is we're actually inviting festival bookers, venue buyers in as industry to actively see the performances. So it is a showcase festival, and we're talking to them on they have to book some artists from this. So remember the days where, hey, I'm going to play a festival and get kind of discovered or get something out of it?
right.
We're really trying to build that in so artists get shows out of performing at our festival. And our goal is this year we are showcasing Ontario artists. Next year we'll be accepting artists from Canada. And the year after that, international artists. So that means bookers from Canada next year, bookers from
Yeah.
international the year after that. So we're providing opportunity for more shows is really a big part of it.
Moving on to the did. How did you do it?
A lot of sweat equity, I got to say. I think in our business, passion is first. If you get into our business to make money, you'll probably um, be discouraged very quickly. I think everybody that is from the old days, as we say, have been in it for a while. Passion is key. We love what we do, and uh, basically, I've used a phrase and it's sticking. Figure it out. We come across
Mhm.
problems all the time. You can plan everything you want, and there's always going to be an unknown factor. And I've seen people come and go where they try to control everything so much where something doesn't happen the way they wanted it to, and it's just too much for them. You got to be flexible. You have to be, adaptable. And that's part of what COVID also taught us. And I think that that was a bit of a wake up call. And they're like, yeah, we could do this. We could get through this. So it is a lot of sweat equity, but learn from mistakes, better yourself, and people will stick with you when you're doing something meaningful. And knock on wood, I guess it's been about 24 years doing this. So I can't even count the number of artists we've worked with or the shows, but there's so many memorable experiences that like, in fact, I was messaging Jimmy from the Strumbellas, and we
Mm.
had him a long time ago, and he's touring the world right now. So yeah, I don't know how else to answer that
It's
question.
it's such a well, it's such a
You
I
know,
mean, it's loaded, but I mean, I think everyone has the same. They have a sort of similar amount of journey. There's uh rents missed and phone bills missed, and you're sleeping on friends' couches. I certainly have been downtown Toronto and been like, oh, the GO train's not going to Oshawa, so I guess I'm stuck downtown. And walking around downtown Toronto, at 5 in the morning, waiting for the GO train to go at 6 back out to the east. But it's like,
yeah,
because you had a great show, you got paid a couple of bucks to be there, and it's all goes into the pot. And I think it's such a it's there's a lack of that now, I think. And as far as the well, am I right or am I wrong in saying that it's easier now for a band to break than it was then? Just given the amount of tools that they have at their disposal versus like the old school, record a demo, put it into an envelope, send it in to yourself to copyright it, then send it into somebody at Universal, or call a lawyer, or unsolicited this or unsolicited that. Now it does. Now it's like I've just put a full record out. It's out, and I've got you know 100,000
Yes.
people that follow me and come to my shows, and sporadically throughout it just seems like an easier moment for artists to potentially try to break.
Yes and no. There's a double side to this as an answer.
There
I
always
think
is. There always is.
so. I'm going to say yes, in the sense that, and I kind of always go back to when I was a musician, where okay, I want to record. Okay, I got to go to a studio, $100 an hour. Okay, 10 songs. Guess how many thousands that's going to be? Uh, and then I need to put out physical product. That's going to be thousands of dollars. And oh yeah, radio won't play anything, and stores might take consignment. I have to only do this at shows. Okay. Uh, so like if we were going to talk about the difficulty in actually getting the music out there was no outlet to get music out there for a lot of indie artists. They had to play shows. So
Mhm.
that's totally changed and it's totally easy. But on the other hand, there was kind of, I mentioned it earlier, there was kind of a blueprint. Do this, this happens, do this, that might happen. A label might develop you and so on. Where now that part does not exist and everybody is really trying to figure it out. And it's like this messaging of be your authentic self. Okay, cool. I don't want to do that. Okay, that's how the business works. So there's a lot of, I
Oh,
think the mindset and strategic approach is lacking a lot of the times, and work ethic.
yeah.
And I'll just say one thing about work ethic that I talked to somebody like yesterday. I'm like, you're working hard. Okay, how many posters have you put up for your last show? Zero. I'm like, man, we did that Tuesdays and Thursdays because they would be postered over within a
Yeah.
couple hours.
The
We did
poster
it for a
guys.
month in
Yeah.
the rain, in the snow, whatever, because we had to promote, because there was no online thing to promote with. We had to do it all physical. So I'm like, okay, that's hard work. To me, that's hard work. Sending emails, it may take time, but is it hard?
It's a very interesting thing because there seems to be, and maybe you can comment on this because you're seeing it more, but the whole like we won't sign anybody with less than this many followers.
Oh yeah,
It's like it's got to be this much TikTok, this much that. But I'm also seeing the controversy surrounding buying likes, buying streams, buying all these things. So you get this false sense of like, uh, what do you call it? You get this false sense of like the artist has 5 million people following him, but they actually bought 3 million of them, and they can't put more than 150 people in a club. And
yeah.
so there's this weirdness of that I feel like the label side of it has to be careful of, because yeah, they might have a lot of followers and they might have a lot of engagement, but are the kids actually showing up to watch them more than twice?
It's so yes, in my previous role or recent previous role, that was part of my gig. And I'll tell you that unless there's a certain threshold of monthly listeners, followers, data, and anybody can have access to anyone's data. It's really easy. Chartmetric is a tool that you just plug in an artist name and you know everything about
Mm,
them, and you can compare them to other artists and all this stuff. But like with one previous client, I like was to try to buy catalogs and sign catalogs, right? And I'm like, they're like, go after like really big ones. So I called them back and I said, do you want a meeting with Nickelback? And they're like, what have they done in 10 years? And I'm like, it's Nickelback. Like, they really want the upcoming rising where the data is on an upward swing.
Hmm.
And then with their tools, they can magnify that, they can amplify that swing. And that's where the money is, not necessarily work with something that's, maybe more long tail, but more flat. Well, that's certain companies. Other companies may want other ones. And there was another potential client that had left a major to work with us. And I was trying to elevate them, and they're like, most of their fans are like in Europe, and they also want to see what's happening in their home territory because they feel that's where the foundation is, and they can also amplify that. Where they
Hmm.
might feel if most of their followers are in a different territory, maybe that's bots, maybe that's fake, or maybe that's a fluke. So they really
I
want that stability.
I look at international because I get to see the international side a lot.
Yeah,
Obviously, I got to see our cows in a small little club in Glasgow. Mother was with me on tour last year, opening up for the act that I was out with, and that band is working crazy hard internationally. Um, that used to be very difficult to do. I mean, for a Canadian band to go down to America in the '90s, it was almost impossible unless you had so many things put in place and visas and stuff, which is still difficult, but a little easier now to do.
yeah,
Um, so that has got to be something uh, that the message that has to go to these young artists is Canada probably still only makes up. I don't know what the stat is, but probably still only makes up 3 to 5% of the actual global market. Yeah, is that kind of accurate, or is it a little bit more than that now, considering how
um,
much are going around? But you have to really go international if you want to really do it. You can sell at Peterborough as much as you want,
yeah.
but selling out Glasgow and selling out London should be on should be on the docket.
We are an export market. Last time I looked, we were number 8 in the world for music
Okay.
markets. Um, and the thing is, and I've championed this in lots of industry talks, where Canada has produced the top leaders in every genre in the world. Literally, like if you think country, Shania Twain. If you think pop punk, Avril Lavigne, Sum 41. If
Yeah.
you think rock, Nickelback, AC's Michael Bublé,
Brian
uh,
Adams.
Brian Adams is in there, Rush is in there.
Yep.
Like we could go on forever. Canada is always punched above the weight class, as like the common phrase that happens, right? And most of the time, people think they're American,
Hmm.
you know. Um, and I tell young bands the the real sort of gold ring is get outside of Canada.
Yeah.
Canada is the training ground. This is the base, but I'll refer to like another artist that made it big was Bare Naked Ladies.
Hmm.
And I remember I grew up in Edmonton, so I knew Bare Naked Ladies from afar, kind of thing, because hearing this indie band in Toronto that did the Much Music Speakers Corner and got noticed. But then all of a sudden you heard nothing about Bare Naked Ladies, and I thought they were over. What they were doing is they were in the States slogging it out, going around the
Yeah.
States, and then they got a hit in the States. And the thing I learned then is if you get a hit in the States, all of Canada will follow you. So if you get a hit in Canada, the States doesn't care.
No.
So go like
Which is
if
a
you,
shame because we've had such amazing acts up here that just never got there, and
yeah,
it's so frustrating, to but that's the world. There's also a ton of American acts, North American acts, European acts that just never really got there, and I've got a heavy dose of UK acts like Band of Skulls
oh
and
yeah,
some of these bands that were amazing that just it never went. It went a little bit over there, but it never went. They got 5 incredible records and it just never went. And you're like, oh, but
well,
it's good to know that it doesn't necessarily, it's not just limited to Canada and our limitation, what we're up against. That there's sort of uh, there's
Well,
sort of it's happening all around the world too, you know.
if I can say one thing that is really better right now is that, we've talked like that there is a South by Southwest, there's a Canadian Music Week, but now there's one of those events in every country, which is a great entry point. So if an artist looked at their data and said, where does it seem to be leaning to where my audience is? Look up what showcase festival or conference is there, and that is an entry point. You don't have to even perform. You could go there, network, create some alliances,
Mhm.
some people that can help be your team in that market, and then work at getting there. It's very easy, and it's not like the whole band has to go to the conference or festival. One person can act as manager or representative. So there's so much access to markets everywhere right now. That's what I do. I travel a lot. I'm speaking at conferences. I just did a whole run through Eastern Europe. Um, I'm going to Thailand in December, and
Amazing.
that's a thank you to Live Nation Thailand. So yeah, like there is so much opportunity to get access to markets, and with data, you can start go like the other part is back in the day, we didn't know. We're like, let's go to Vancouver. Do we have any fans there? I don't know, but sounds like a good idea,
Yeah, that's good.
right? So now with data, you can actually go, hey, we see artists are like people are really listening to us in Brazil. We should look into that.
Mother, prime example in South America right now
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they're killing it. So I love it. I love it when the that's the part I was referring to when it was sort of like maybe a chance to break a different way now, and it's just like you can kind of target your touring and I think that's awesome. Which was like, hey, we're big in Buffalo, we're big in Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
we're big in we're Niagara Falls, we're big in Syracuse, but it's like, man, if we could just break in Atlanta, but you got to get down there. So that part has never changed and it still goes. It's just people have more platforms like this where they can
Yeah.
have conversations and kind of do that. You don't have to wait to go see somebody in Florida. You can just have them on your podcast, and next thing you know, you're trading gigs. So,
And the other
uh,
thing is you could
yeah,
spend $50 to $100 a week and have an ad targeted to the market that you're
yeah,
exploring and see if it takes off. And
sure.
if it does, it's like, okay, yeah, let's now spend more or not. It's not working. So we could really know our budgets in that sense.
It's
So,
still about the songs for me. Got a song's got to hit. Got to have a hit.
oh yes, you have to have a song. You have to have
Yeah,
it's got to
got
be
to have
about
a
the
song.
music.
Uh, buddy, what will you do next? What's the plan here?
Uh, well, we are developing out our community to be more end to end for artists and industry. We're developing different sections that facilitate towards songwriters, and then another section that's more for performers and industry, so that there's going to be really quality content, but quality connection. And we're working on a new arm of the business that we're going to be launching in about a month. I can't really say much about it. I literally just signed the deal yesterday, but we are launching a whole new service for artists off of our platform, and I'm
Amazing.
super excited about it. Yeah, I just wish I could say more, but I
That's
can't.
okay. All good things come to the rest of us who wait for all the good news. Talk to me a little bit more about venue to venue and the conference and I've got a list of artists up here for anyone watching. These are just some of them that are going to be there, correct?
Yeah. We've got about 70 artists. We're announcing 10 more tomorrow, and couple things to note. We've got a new show that we're incorporating this year that's going to be annual. And some of the names are right there. Mo Berg from Pursuit of
Pursuit of
Happiness,
Happiness, yeah.
Dave Bedini, Rio Statics, Housewife, Chris Coster from Glorious Sons. Song by Song is the name, and it's a songwriter round where they're sharing the stories behind the songs. And this is something that we're launching this year as part of the festival, and it's going to be annual. And this is where you get to have some of the artists that aren't emerging, and they're able to share the stories on how this song developed their
Yeah.
career. So that's really exciting. I'm really looking forward to that. And we're bringing back the whole get a wristband and you jump from venue to venue. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
And you get a chance to potentially see an artist in a small club and find, like, later they're like Art Kells. I remember when they were playing
Absolutely.
some of our stages. So, like, that's the thing, is you might have that chance to see a band in a small club and experience it, and a few years later you're having to go pay a big ticket price.
Not to mention though that talking earlier about your career and forging your career and how it comes about. The people that you meet at the beginning of your career are very crucial to your development,
Yes.
and so you're going to meet. I remember some advice I got one time in the business, which was like, it's fine to find the big managers, it's fine to find the big agents, it's fine to find the big venue managers and the guitar player in the band. Sure, those are the 5 that you wait around for, or you're designed to wait around for. But the assistants and the people that are the future, that it might have been there for a little while, like the assistant to the big manager, the assistant to the big record exec, the guitar tech to the guitar player, that's the glue to the business. That those people will be leaders within 5 to 10 years, and you got to treat people properly in that early phase of your career, because you're meeting a lot of the juniors that are going to be the executives down the road. And that art has been missing too,
Yes.
because get the record label, get this, get that. But it's like, yeah, but who's the one actually out hustling in the club every single night watching bands? Who is the junior that's just as fired up as you are? That's the person that's just as important as the president of the record label, as the rest. It's These are the people that are going to be future presidents. And so I think that these conferences and this platform that you've built is going to give an opportunity for people to connect with the future of the business, that are all going through the same struggle and all going through the same journey together.
Yes.
And that's been lost. And I said it before, and I'll keep saying, that's been lost.
Absolutely. And, something to say about, I'm talking about the DIT platform. That's where we house our online webinars and conference. So Indie Week, we've left that brand as our conference because everybody knows Indie Week. Where one thing we're doing differently is the first 3 days of the week, the conference is online. And what
Hmm.
that does is allows us to have speakers from Africa, from Eastern Europe, from Brazil, and everybody can network internationally and don't have to pay hotel, flights,
Yeah.
meals, all that stuff. And then it transitions where 2 days are going to be in person in London, right? So, and one part is going to be interesting. And, like, we've always tried to be innovative and be doing things like, talking health and wellness. We were the first conference that I know of that dedicated a full day to health and wellness back in 2017, I think it was, right? So this year, one of the things we're doing in person and on DIT is one of our speakers, Martin Atkins. He's written books like Tour Smart is what he's going to be talking about, but he couldn't make it. So he's going to be in Chicago and he's going to be on our platform, and in person, we're projecting it. But even the people in the audience can DM him on the platform and connect, even though he's not in the room. Can
Yeah.
communicate with them after the fact because they're on the platform and can DM him, ask any question at any time. And then, as well, because it's on our platform, people will be tuning in from around the world.
Yeah. Which is
So
so
it's
great.
it's really cool, and it's the first time I know of that that's really taken place in that manner.
And I have an opportunity every now and again to go speak at a college scenario, or jump into like a DIT room or something, and there's maybe 25, 30 students or whatever. And I always leave my info, and I'm always like, reach out with any questions. And there's only ever just one.
That's it. I
And
know.
because
The way
there's
to
the
do
other
it.
24 seem to have all the answers. But
Ye-
it's the one that reaches out. And to give you an example, I had one reach out from a conference a little while ago that was determined to work for the touring company that I work for, and went through the process of like really finding out how to get in there, and really like finding out like where to volunteer, how to get on the radar, how to do the whole process. And that person is now in a position with the company
Amazing.
based on the work that they did, not the work that I did. I simply was like, if you need any advice, give me a shout. And the other 24 don't. And you never hear of the other 24 ever again because they just have all the answers because TikTok told them. And that's just not, you need these conferences. You need people like yourself that are leading the charge and flying the flag for the indie artist and beyond. And as well as indie podcasts like this,
Absolutely.
which get it out. So I really appreciate the time today talking about all the things that you've been up to and how you know, what you're doing, how you did it and what you'll do next.
Just
It's great to see you, man.
Yeah, and if I could just sort of say to artists, like, just do it. Like, just kind of what you said, if somebody says, "Hey, email me," email 'em. Just say, "Hey,
Yeah,
that was a great talk. This is me. Let me know if you ever want to talk sometime." And I'm going to say about Martin Atkins, because I guess I was one of those guys that just did stuff.
yeah,
I met Martin Atkins on MySpace. That's how long ago, right?
nice.
And I was an artist and I was looking stuff up, and I was running a conference at that time, and I was like, "Oh, there's this book, Tour Smart. That looks really amazing." And I looked up and like, "Oh, the author's talking in Toronto this Saturday. It's this guy named Martin Atkins." I didn't know who he was, but I knew, like, I read like, "Oh, he played with Nine Inch Nails, one of my favorite bands, and Killing Joke. Oh
Yeah,
my God, and Public Image Limited." I DM'd him on MySpace, "Want to go for a coffee?" And he's like, "Sure." So after his book reading, we went for a coffee, and we're great friends. We've been at multiple conferences around the world. He speaks for my conferences. I go to things that he does. And so, if anything, off of what you said, if somebody in the industry says, "Here's my email," ask them for a coffee, or do something that creates that relationship. And you never know. And I got to say, Martin is a very dear friend, and I'm so thankful that he accepted my invitation to a coffee like 20 years
mhm.
ago.
It's amazing when they do it, and when you're amazed when you get the time, and people will continue to surprise you, and you cannot find out about those surprises unless you take advantage of a situation that's presented to you. If you have an opportunity to reach out to somebody and ask them for advice, do it because
Yeah,
it's going to change your life, or at the minimum, you're going to get answers, yes or no.
yeah, exactly.
So there it is.
Love it.
Darryl, thanks, pal. Really appreciate it. For everyone in the Ontario area, definitely Venue by Venue Music Festival and Conference, November 14th to 16th in London, Ontario. 3 nights, 60 artists, 7 venues. Love that. Mo Berg, The Pursuit of Happiness. I'd love to just listen to that guy talk.
Yeah,
Dave Bettini, Rios Statics, Chris Costa from Glorious Sons, X. So there's so many cool people you got involved in this. There's also an online portion of the things that you guys do. So head on over to Indie Week, head on over to Venue by Venue, and also head on over to DIT, DIT Music Community. I'm a part of it as well. It's very informative. Lots of young minds and old minds helping each other get to the same path. Darryl,
awesome.
thanks, pal. We'll see you down the road. All the best with the